Ranking every single troop in Clash of Clans. We're going to be including the Elixir troops, the Dark Elixir troops, and the Super troops. Now there's going to be a few tiers for you guys. In fact, we're going to start from F tier, the completely trash troops, and go all the way to S tier, which are borderline OP. And we've got a lot to get through, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's start off with the F tier first, and these are the troops that are absolutely trash and a waste of army space in my opinion. The most classical troop is first, and that is the Barbarian. This troop is iconic and it can help you early on in the game, but it falls off really fast later on in the game, and even when it comes to cleanup, I think I would prefer the Archer in almost every scenario. Remember that this doesn't include the Super Barbarian. That is going to be another troop that we're going to rank later on in the video. Next in this tier we have the Giant, another classic troop that we've had in the game forever, but again, after those early town hall levels, it really falls off. Once you unlock the Golem, you can just use that for all of your tanking purposes, and late game compositions almost never use the Giant. Next up we have the Goblin, which is another classic troop. The Goblin is a great troop early on, but it falls off later on in the game due to its counterpart, the Sneaky Goblin. The Sneaky Goblin is so much better than the normal Goblin that it's even hard to compare them in the first place. You'll probably never use a normal Goblin after you unlock the Sneaky version. Next up we have a troop that is similar to one that has already been on this list, and that is the Super Giant. Now the Super Giant does get a lot more hit points compared to a normal Giant, but it also costs more army space. And in modern armies, it's really good to have a troop that's both tanky and can do damage at the same time. Something like the Meteor Golem comes to mind. And because of that, the Super Giant is clearly really bad because it's not really good at either of these things. Now to finish off our F tier, we have the Super Valkyrie. Now the Super Valkyrie is the advanced form of the normal Valkyrie, and it drops a rage spell when it gets killed. And that sounds like a really great idea, but that rage spell is smaller and the Super Valkyrie costs more housing space than a normal Valkyrie. On top of this, it still suffers from what the normal Valkyrie's problem is, and that is pathing and how the AI works through the base, as it ensures that the Valks get completely shredded. It is a fun troop to use, but not nearly viable. It is not something that you're going to see often. And in summary, here are all the F tier troops that I consider not worth any army space at all in almost all cases. Next up we have the E tier, and this is full of troops that are useful in one or two scenarios only. First on the list we have the classic Archer. Now remember how I spoke about the Barbarian and how it could just help with cleanup, but I think the Archer does better almost every single time due to its range. And honestly, that's pretty much the only time that I see normal Archers being used. It is good for funneling and good for cleanup, and I think because of that, they're going to be on the bottom of E tier. Next up we have another familiar troop, and that is the Wizard. The Wizard is also very useful when it comes to cleanup and can help you funnel your attacks early on. I think it gets more value than the Archer in doing so. That being said, unless you're at a lower town hall level, the Wizard is not going to make up any bulk of your army or be part of any real meta army, and because of that, it's not really as useful. And again, this is not considering the Super Wizard, which is going to come later in this list. After this, we have the classic Dark Elixir troop, the Golem. The Golem used to be one of the strongest troops in Clash of Clans early on, but it really has lost its luster as we've gained more and more town halls. This is due to the number of single target defenses that can just rip apart the Golem, and the fact that there are just other troops that do what the Golem do, and they do a lot of damage on top of it. It is really strong at town halls like Town Hall 8 or Town Hall 9, but it doesn't really get used as much after that, and because of that, we have it lower on the list. And the final entry of this tier might be one that is controversial, and that is the classic Wall Breaker. Now the Wall Breaker is really good at early town hall levels because you need access inside the walls and inside the compartments, and you can't really do this without anything but a jump spell. But once you unlock the Super Wall Breaker, you're going to use that every single time instead of the normal Wall Breaker, because it basically ensures that you'll get that wall break. On top of this, there are just a ton of troops that completely shred through walls or jump over walls, and a result of this is that walls themselves are a little bit of a meme, so you could imagine how bad the classic wall breakers are. So I would say they're really only useful at those early town hall levels, but after that, they're pretty much irrelevant. So overall, these are all the troops that are going to be ending up in the E tier. That is the tier that has one or two uses maybe. Next up we have the D tier, and this concerns troops that can get value in some attack strategies, but they're just simply not the best choice for those strategies. First up we have a super troop, and that is the Inferno Dragon. The The Inferno Dragon is a troop that attacks a building just like a normal dragon, except it does more and more damage over time. And there are definitely some Inferno Dragon strategies out there, but I wouldn't really call them the best across the board when it comes to attack strategies. Especially when it comes to air troops, I think there are things that are just simply a lot stronger. The next one we have on this list is the Baby Dragon. Now the Baby Dragon can be nice if you need 2 stars from a base and you're mismatched in a war or something like that, and it can serve as a way to go ahead and farm a little bit to get some resources pretty quickly, but in reality there are just better strategies that can get you more stars than Baby Dragons, and there are also better strategies when it comes to farming, so it's really not that great. Next up on this list we have the Super Miner. The Super Miner is a cool troop and you can use it in attacks like Hybrid when you get good pathing in a base. However, in the long run you just really don't see it all that much, and there are a lot of troops that do this a lot better. Ground meta is completely overpowering at the moment, and this is not some place the super meta can compete. After this we have the Super Dragon. Now the Super Dragon isn't completely viable at all Town Hall levels, but there are some Town Hall levels where you can pull off a Super Dragon attack. That being said, there are definitely better air armies, and there are more consistent ones like Electro Dragons or Dragons, and Super Dragons are great, but getting them to work can be difficult as each one is such a significant investment in the army. Next up we have a troop that is really cool but doesn't see a lot of use, and that is the Electro Titan. The Electro Titan is the original Electro Boots because they have an aura effect that does damage around them as they move through the base. The issue is they literally move so slow, like it takes them very long to get through a base, and this is why you end up having trouble with them. A lot of players will do everything right, but they will eventually end up time failing on the base. And this kind of highlights the balance that you have to have between your damage output, your tanking capability, and the speed that you have, which we will see in some troops later on in the video. I just want to say that Electro Titan are some of the coolest troops in the game. I personally really love their design, and I hope they get some buffs in the future so that we can all use them. Last but not least for this tier, we have the P.E.K.K.A. Now this is a classic troop, and this is definitely one that has seen itself in the meta in its heyday, primarily at town halls like Town Hall 12, where you would see something like the P.E.K.K.A. smash quite often at pro level. However, ever since then, the P.E.K.K.A. has kind of become irrelevant when it comes to attack strategies in the modern day. Despite having the damage that it has, it's just way too slow, and it just does not get through your base. In fact, the only real time that you're going to see P.E.K.K.A.s in your attacks in the modern day is when you use the siege barracks, and we can't really attribute that to the troop itself. So these are all the troops that we have in this tier, and just a reminder that these are the troops that can get you some value, but they might not be the best option for what you're trying to achieve. Next up we have the C tier, and these are troops that are pretty niche, but man, when you do use them in that niche, they are very good. First off on the list, we have the Minion. Now the Minion isn't an army on its own or something like that, but it can do a ton of damage, and it is really important for cleanup. And whether you're using the Minion to go ahead and do some cleanup at the end of any attack, or you're using it to help out when you're doing some Lalo attacks, there is some use for the Minion. And honestly, I don't think it's an easy replacement. Like, what are you going to replace the Minion with in a Lalo attack? It's really hard to do. Thus, I think it deserves its spot in the C tier, but it is the worst among all of the troops that are in this tier. Next up we have a troop that is kind of a one-trick pony, and that is the Miner. Now the Miner is good in one attack strategy, and that's basically Queen Charge Hybrid. You can also do Queen Charge Miners, but I think Hybrid is a lot stronger of an attack strategy. And to be honest, we don't really use the Miner for anything else, but Hybrid can be really strong. Particularly in town halls like Town Hall 12, Town Hall 13, and Town Hall 14, this can be considered a meta army, and it's used to shred at these town halls. It doesn't have the same power when it gets to the later town halls, and thus I wouldn't recommend it there. Next up we have a fan favorite troop, and that is the Super Wizard. The Super Wizard recently got a buff, which is really nice because it has one of the most popular openings in the game in the Super Wizard blimp, and at some of the lower town hall levels this can be very strong and set up good funneling for your attack. However, at the higher levels of the game, there's just so much damage on the base with the modifiers and everything that's at play that the wizards often don't get the value that you're looking for. Kind of similar to this, we have the next troop, which is the Super Archer. The Super Archer is used in the Super Archer blimp, and again, that is very useful at some town hall levels and can be very devastating as an opening. The reason I rated the Super Archers higher than the Super Wizards is because they can actually do an attack on their own as well, but it is really not that great. I also think the Super Archer blimp is one of the most satisfying things you can do in the game, and bonus points from me in that regard. Regardless, there's not a lot of uses for Super Wizards and Super Archers, and as a result, they're both in this category. Next up, we have a troop that is literally defining this category, and that is the Valkyrie. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I literally hated the Valkyrie for the longest time because it has some of the worst pathing in the game. Its pathing basically makes it vulnerable to the entire base, and as a result, it doesn't get a lot of value. That being said, there is one way that Valkyries are being used nowadays, which is completely undeniable, and that is by farming and getting 50% really quickly on the base. If you're in a higher ranked league, that league bonus that you're going to get from every single attack is pretty substantial, and if you can get through attacks really fast, you can get a lot of loot very quickly. A lot of people are aware of this now, but this is the new fastest farming strategy in Clash of Clans, and that is why Valkyries are very useful. But also they're not really useful in regards to anything else, so that's why they're in this tier. Next up, we have another one that really fits well into this tier, and that is the Apprentice Warden. The Apprentice Warden has one job, and that is to be a mini life gem for the rest of your troops. His stats can buff your army and give it some extra hit points, and that could be really helpful. And having the Apprentice Warden could be a difference maker, but again, you only need one of them, and this is pretty much the only use the Apprentice Warden has in the game. And finishing off this tier, we have one that may be a little bit controversial and difficult to judge because of the recent balance changes, but the troop that's going to end off this tier is the Druid. Now the Druid is basically like a healer, however he stays on the ground, and after a certain amount of time he turns into a bear and then goes into attacking, which is a really cool mechanic, and it was actually overpowered when it first came out. Ever since then though, it's gotten some nerfs, and a lot of players have just been using healers as a result, and players still use healers even though the Druid just got buffed recently because the healers also got another level during the Town Hall 18 update. Obviously the Druid can still be helpful in some attacks, but it's really hard to read right now because of the recent balance changes. That's why I thought it would be most fair to put it here. And with that, here are all the troops that are going to be C tier, and those are the troops which have a little bit of a niche use, but they're really good at that use. Now we're gonna get into some of the higher tiers, and we're gonna start with B tier. Troops in this tier are completely meta at some points of the game, but not all points of the game. To start off this list, we have one of my favorite troops of all time, the Witch. The Witch spam attack at the earlier Town Hall levels is one of the strongest things you will see, and it's practically impossible not to 3-star. However, once you get to Town Hall 13 and 14, your Witches are basically useless, and it's not gonna work anymore. As a result, this troop falls off really hard, and it perfectly fits into this tier. In a similar vein, we have the super version of this troop, the Super Witch. The Super Witch is a very strong troop that spawns big boys and can do a ton of damage throughout the base. However, the biggest issue with Super Witches is time, and they usually end up time failing, so you have to be really efficient. Not only does this make this troop harder to use, but it also makes it less efficient at the higher Town Hall levels, which have higher hit point buildings, and it just takes longer to get through. It's definitely meta at some Town Hall levels, but it doesn't carry through to all Town Hall levels. Next up, we're going to talk about another super troop, and that is the Ice Hound. Now the Ice Hound is going to be a B tier troop. It is used in some attacks, but it's not that strong. Where it does feel a little strong is sometimes in the clan castle, because it can slow down some of those openings quite a bit. Next up on this list, we have a fan favorite, and that is the Hog Rider. The Hog Rider is definitely strong in mass at a ton of Town Hall levels, especially early on. You can use something like a Queen Charge Hog Riders to really get you some nice value and to make one of the most satisfying attacks in the game. However, with that being said, there is a ton of splash damage introduced at Town Halls 14, 15, and 16, and it gets really tough to justify Hog Riders on their own as an attack strategy. Of course, they are iconic, so there is some respect for that, but they deserve 100% to be in this tier. Next up after this, we have another classic troop, and that is the Lava Hound. The Lava Hound is basically an air golem which tanks a ton of damage and can split into lava pups and take out some buildings. It's a very cool air troop, and it's used in one of the strongest strategies in the game right now, and that is Lalo. That being said, Lalo isn't viable at all Town Hall levels, and it isn't even seen that much in the meta currently. And even when you do see Lalo, it's not the easiest thing to pull off for all players, and it's quite a skillful thing to do. I think Lalo can come in and out of the meta with a few balance changes, but the fact that the Lava Hound isn't used in any other way except for occasionally being put into the clan castle means that it's going to remain at B tier for right now. Next up on this list, we have the Dragon Rider, which is the terror of Town Hall 14. Dragon Riders are like dragons, but they specifically target defenses and do splash damage when they're destroyed. When Town Hall 14 was first introduced, everybody and their mom was using the Dragon Rider attacks, and to this day you can use Dragon Riders at Town Hall 14 and do very well. That being said, Dragon Riders aren't the strongest troop in the next few Town Hall levels, and they don't have the power that they once initially had, and as a result I think it fits into the B tier and defines this category pretty well. Next up on this list, we have the Yeti. The Yeti is a classic troop which is going to spawn Yeti mites which will target defenses and do a lot of damage to them. Now Yetis are great in a number of ways. They can definitely be used inside of smash attacks with something like witches, and this is one of the strongest strategies at some town hall levels, but the Yeti is a little bit higher up on the list because it is very helpful in Yeti blimps. You can throw some Yetis inside of a blimp and then use a rage spell to try and take out any part of a base. And Yetis are helpful to fill your offensive clan castle if you're using something like a Super Yeti and a Yeti at the highest levels of the game. I think the Yeti is pretty versatile and it is meta at some points of the game, and because of that I think it deserves a higher place in the B tier. Next up we have a controversial one, but I think it is the Super Wall Breaker. Now obviously this is a strong tool to have in your army because the Super Wall Breaker has more health and is a lot faster than a normal wall breaker, so it ensures that you get the break that you need. In fact, in a lot of strategies this is a very key thing to do and you can fail without it. The issue is that nowadays we have a ton of troops and effects that basically ignore walls completely. As a result, I don't think Super Wall Breakers are necessarily meta, and you get to a point where a lot of armies don't even need the wall breakers and you could just do with the jump or something instead. And to finish off our B tier, we have another possibly controversial one, and that is the Super Hog Rider. The Super Hog Rider is like the normal Hog Rider, except when it gets defeated, it jumps off of its hog and then both the hog and the rider attack. Now I'll be honest, I haven't had much luck using Super Hog Riders in my Clash of Clans journey, but there have been times where Super Hog Riders have been in the meta, and even recently a lot of people have been saying that this is pretty good considering the brand new life gem buff that we got. In my experience, I've seen Super Hog Riders be meta at some points and then float in and out of the meta, and that is why I'm putting them at the highest position in the B tier. Now overall, these are all the troops in the B tier right here, and again these are troops that are good and meta at some points of the game, but really not all points of the game. Next up we have the A tier. This is the tier where we have super versatile troops that are good for a long time in the game. I would like to start this off with nothing other than Sneaky Goblins. The Sneaky Goblin is invisible for the first few seconds of its deployment, and as a result it can be very good for farming, but it's also very good for setting the funnel in a ton of attacks, and it's been used this way for years. And from time to time you can also fill it inside of a blimp and then take out a town hall, because the town hall is a resource building as well. So this is another way to use it. Regardless, it is super versatile and super helpful to a lot of players in the game, and that is why it's going to start off this list. Next up we have one of the most underappreciated troops in the game in my opinion, and that is the Headhunter. Now this troop literally has just one job, and that is just to take out your enemy heroes, whether that's on offense or defense. And truly almost every army can use a Headhunter and it can get value in almost every single attack, and as a result I think it's really important to keep. On top of this, it can be useful as a defensive clan castle as well, as it can take out the attacking heroes, and this could be devastating. So yes, a little bit of personal opinion entwined, but I think the Headhunter really deserves this spot. Next up we have another super versatile troop, and that is the Super Barbarian. Now a lot of you might be saying this is way too high, but the Super Barbarian is useful in many cases in the game. It can help you with cleanup in some of the strongest armies in the game right now, and it's really fast, so it does help you quite a bit. On top of this, you can also use it for farming, and although it isn't as fast as the Valkyrie method, it is still pretty good. For players who are rushing, you guys know how I love at Town Hall 11 the fact that you unlock super troops, and I think it's really good because it unlocks really strong farming strategies, and this is one of the reasons why. So I think the Super Barbarian more than deserves its spot here. Next up we have another troop that is pretty versatile, and that is the Super Minion. The Super Minion makes its appearance in the game in a few areas. There are attacks using Super Minions, but I don't think these are all that viable. There is also the Super Minion blimp opening, which can be viable as well and can be very strong in a base. And defensively, the Super Minion can be used as well and adds a little bit of variety to the Furnace and the Rocket Loon CCs that we see. Overall, I think it's a pretty versatile troop and it does have its uses, but it's not as useful as some of the other troops that are coming on this list. And one of those is definitely the Furnace. The Furnace is easily one of the most useful troops in the game. You can use it during Warden walks to speed up your Warden walk and ensure that you have a funnel a lot faster. It's pretty much used all the time in the clan castle for defense and can be catastrophic if you forget about it. And there are actual attack strategies that are focused around the Furnace. For example, the attack strategy where you hone the Furnace's mites and then you can do damage that way. I think when we talk about versatility, the Furnace is one of those troops that should come to mind immediately, and that is why it's on this list. Next up we have another super versatile and effective troop, and that is the Ice Golem. This troop can literally be used in a ton of ways and has been over the years. You can use it as the main force of the attack itself, as there have been some mass Ice Golem armies that have been used recently, but more commonly it's used with hero dives to try and get heroes further into the base and to protect them. It's also used to freeze certain defenses at certain times. In fact, one of my favorite things ever was to use ice golems to freeze something like a wizard tower during a bat attack. And to add to its versatility, you can also use it as a defensive clan castle to slow down the entire attack. Definitely one of the most versatile troops in the game. Next up we have, in my opinion, one of the most useful troops to ever exist in Clash of Clans, and that is the balloon. The balloon has so many uses, it's pretty much ridiculous. It can be used as the meat of your army with something like Lalo, as we've discussed before. It can be used to tank for traps for your army for something like dragons or electro dragons. It can also be used to protect any charges, like any queen charges or warden walks or anything like that. It can be used to funnel the outside of a base or to take out key defenses. It can be used as an offensive clan castle to try and do a clone bomb or try to get the town hall very quickly. When it comes to the balloon, it probably is the most versatile troop in the game, and that is why it is going to be the top of this tier. And these are all the troops that are going to be in A tier, and again, these are the troops that are going to be versatile for the duration of the game. Now for the tier that everybody's been waiting for, we have the S tier. This is for troops that are either meta or just straight up borderline overpowered in the game right now. First off, we have something that will probably make a lot of people upset, but I really cannot avoid putting it here. It is the Electro Dragon. Now I know a lot of people are going to be hating on Electro Dragons in the comments, but other than being literally the easiest troop to use, it's very good. It's good across pretty much every town hall level that exists and can get very good value as long as you funnel it. It's also recently been buffed at pretty much every level in the recent patch that we've had. And a lot of people as a result are even using Electro Dragons at Town Hall 18 in Legend League. The Electro Dragon is a strong, effective, and easy troop to use, and it is easy to see why this is an S tier troop. Next up we have a troop that knows all too much about being in the meta, and that is the Root Rider. Ever since the Root Rider came out, it's been very good, and it's also been a difficult thing to go ahead and balance. This troop completely bursts through walls and makes them irrelevant, making pathing a lot easier. It has received nerfs obviously, but it's still very powerful and can be strong, especially now that the meta is a little bit diverse and not everybody is building against it. Again, I think it's one of the strongest troops in the game, and it's a really good option for a lot of players. Next up we have one of the coolest design troops and one of the most powerful right now, and that is the Super Yeti. The Super Yeti is very useful and can be very good in a smash attack. By getting a good funnel, you can actually push your Super Yetis through a base, and because of their arc ability, they completely take out the entire core of the base. Not to mention that you can actually carry Super Yetis in your clan castle, and I think a lot of ground strategies nowadays basically use Super Yetis because they are very effective. One of the strongest ground troops in the game right now, and one that players will have a great time learning about if they decide to do so. Next up we have a timeless troop, and one that always appears to be good wherever it is, and that is the Dragon. This is one of my favorite troops to recommend to level up because it just stays good throughout a variety of town halls. Dragons can be used anywhere between the first town hall they're unlocked at, which is Town Hall 7, all the way to the max Town Hall, which is Town Hall 18 currently. Because they almost always get one level at each of these Town Hall levels, it's also very easy to go ahead and keep them up to date and make them stronger. Definitely a really strong troop, one that's very effective, very good at multiple Town Hall levels, and one that I recommend that everybody learns how to use. Next up we have one that's a little bit controversial for the way that this ranking tier list is made, but I think it doesn't deserve to be anywhere else except for S tier. And the troop that I'm talking about is the Healer. Here's the fact of the matter, there are tons of meta attack strategies that simply would not exist without having the Healer. The Healer basically helps any ground smash attack operate, and it helps a ton of openings when it comes to the Warden Walk and the Queen Charge. It is super basic and all it really does is heal your troops, but because of this it is so strong. Remember that Sneezy was literally deemed way too powerful, and the troop launcher is always used with balloons just to keep your healers alive, and this should just give you an idea of how strong they are. I think it's hard to argue that they deserve to be in S tier. Next up we have one of the craziest skill expression and defensive troops in the game, and that is the Rocket Loon. The Rocket Loon is no joke. It's basically a rocket propelled balloon that's only 8 housing space, and it can do so much. It is infamously known for the Fireball Rocket Loon strategy that a lot of higher level players will use. Just a side note, I think it's one of the most beautiful strategies in Clash of Clans. The Rocket Loon is also helpful in other scenarios too, such as helping develop a a quick funnel to take out a key defense, and not to mention that it can be used in the clan castle, and because of their speed, they can cause some serious problems for an attacker who isn't paying attention. The Rocket Loon feels like a troop that lower level players undervalue and that higher level players can just extract a lot of value from. Regardless, clearly an S tier troop and something that is super meta right now. Next up we have the Meteor Golem, which is easily an S tier troop. The Meteor Golem has an insane amount of hit points, a ridiculous amount of damage, and can get over walls easily. This troop has been super meta ever since its release with Town Hall 18, and it's received a nerf afterwards, but it's still very good. I think it still deserves to be in S tier, and a lot of players can still benefit from learning how to use this attack strategy. Next up we have our second to last troop, and that is the Super Bowler. This thing is so hard, and it's really hard to balance and to keep out of the meta. Super Bowlers are super tanky, and they do a ton of damage, so if you have any way to help them survive in the core, they can always be good. Recently they've seen a resurgence in the meta due to some of the recent buffs, and they're actually really strong in the meta right now, but they're not as powerful as the #1 troop that is in this list. And guys, I felt bad because I think this troop is going to get nerfed, but I had to put it on this list. And most of you might have already guessed it, it is the Thrower. The Thrower has always been a very interesting troop to me, and it's always had the range that would make it very deadly. But I think the recent buffs to the life gem and the increase to its attack speed have addressed some of the biggest issues for throwers. Right now, one of the most popular Legend League strategies is to literally just drop throwers with healers in a corner of the base and just watch them wreck the base, and that is how powerful they are. I hate that I have to put this troop up here because I feel like it's inevitable that it will get nerfed, but right now there is no denying that this is the #1 troop in Clash of Clans. And here are all the S tier troops that you guys can see from this list. Now we've gone ahead and done it. We've ranked every single troop in Clash of Clans, but it doesn't really matter. And that's because troops are only half of your offense. If you really want to get a full picture of your offense, you need to know how equipment is ranked in Clash of Clans. That's why you should watch this video right here where I rank all the equipment in Clash of Clans from worst to best, so you know which ones are the best and the ones that you should invest into.